Hello, everybody, and welcome to Dating Made Simple on the It's Just Enter podcast. I'm your host, Tom Robinson, and sitting across from me, Bob Walls.
Tom, it's great to be here.
Nice to have you here.
Yeah, it's great day.
And look who's with us.
Again, we have
the great Macy's
Sophia
here.
And Macy
we're
with us.
putting the great in front of
I
me
have
now.
I have to call you the great Macy,
Okay,
just
well,
because all the amazing things you do.
Delightful.
And
Sophie's
great,
back.
Yes. Sophie's
It's good to
been
be
gone
back.
for a few weeks, and we're glad to have her back.
Nice to
It's
have
good
you
see
back.
her again.
So this is very exciting.
It's like a family. reunion.
Big deal.
It is a family reunion.
It is,
Yeah,
it
welcome
is.
back, ladies. It's good to have both of you here.
Thank you.
Hey, we've got a great guest with us today.
A great
That's what I
guest.
understand.
Yeah, we have Michelle G with us.
Uh-huh.
Macy reached out, contacted her, and
Right.
she's come on our show.
She's joining us from Florida. I
Yeah,
understand.
from Florida. And she's a
Wow.
matchmaker,
A matchmaker.
and she knows how to do this stuff
Okay.
that we're talking about.
Wow.
So this is an important episode for all you guys to listen to. She has been on an award-winning TV show called Fix My Love.
Wow.
And so now hopefully she can help us fix all of the loves that are out there in our audience.
So what you're telling me, Tom, is if people pay attention to our podcast today, they will fix their love.
She will help them do that.
Wow, this is great.
Hey,
She-
guess how many seasons of that show there is?
How many?
4.
There's
Four
four.
seasons.
Four
Wow.
seasons. This
Wow.
wasn't just a one-time deal. This is
Wow.
a four-time.
This is-
Four-time
deal.
episode.
Four-time deal.
Well,
She's
welcome.
also an author.
Uh-huh.
I got to tell you this really quick.
Okay.
Relationship SOS, 7 Lifelines to Rescue Your Emotional Intimacy is her book.
Yeah.
And then also she's the CEO of Incredible Love. So we're going to talk to her about that.
That's great. So
Welcome.
That's her business. That's
Yeah.
her matchmaking business. Michelle, welcome.
Welcome.
Hi there. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
Wow, this is a
for
big
joining
deal
us.
for
Yes,
us.
it
Thank you
is.
so much for taking your time to do this.
Of
Now,
course.
now tell us about Incredible Love really quick. What is Incredible Love?
Incredible Love is a company with a promise, and the promise is that we're going to help you navigate the modern dating scene and find your incredible.
And how does it work for people? Do you have people who contact you, or how do you get in touch with people?
People find us through the internet. They find us through Google. They've seen the show. I've also been featured on a couple of different other networks such as TLC, Telemundo, VH1. They search for matchmakers, looking for love, finding a dating coach. There's different ways that they can find us. And also through Instagram, I put out a lot of content, always talking about modern dating and the struggles and the perils of modern dating.
I love your Instagram. I've been through it.
So
Thank you.
just while we're here, Michelle, do you have any indication of whether you get a better response from your Spanish-speaking audience or your English-speaking audience, or is it about the same?
It's about the same, to be honest with you. I feel that I interact a lot more. I talk more, or I should say, present more Spanish advice, if you will, on stories and not so much on Instagram on the actual post. But that's going to be changing here in 2024.
Oh, great.
Ooh, that's
Interesting.
exciting.
That's awesome.
Wow, that's fascinating. Interesting. This is the first time we've had a guest on that's been bilingual.
Yes,
That has
I
been-
think so.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah,
I
well,
I think so. Sophie
Not a
speaks
guess,
Spanish
but
here,
yes.
Michelle, just so you know.
I do.
Yeah. So she's a Spanish
pues.
speaker. I have some questions for you. Some of the things that we've kind of talked about. I know Macy wants to ask this question. Macy, go ahead.
Just get it out,
We're
Macy.
just gonna
Okay,
we're just gonna
fine,
start with
fine.
this.
This is a question that I've heard between all my friends, and it's just the question of, does playing hard to get work? Is that a good idea?
Oh my God. Well, let me tell you, it's a dating strategy that is as old as dirt, and it's a controversial one. The truth is, you have people on both sides of the aisle saying, yes, you should play hard to get, and no, you shouldn't play hard to get. And here's what I'm going to share. A recent study explored that this strategy, they found that playing hard to get can actually make someone appear more attractive initially. Now,
Initially.
there's the key
Okay.
word, because it only works if at some point the person who's receiving or chasing you the hard to get, and you're playing hard to get, if they feel that their efforts are going to be rewarded somewhere in the future. So it's a really delicate balance to employ this dating strategy, and I would not recommend it at all long term. This is just something to keep that initial interest, that initial spark. And interestingly enough, the same study discovered that people like mystery and they like that spark, but they're also looking for attraction to be reciprocated, and for people to be clear about their romantic goals. So it's only in the beginning phases to be able to start playing hard to get. After a while, you kind of got to make sure that you begin reciprocating, especially if you want to keep this person's interest. And remember, it hinges on outside factors that are outside of our control, such as personality, reciprocation of attraction, and also attachment styles, preferences, romantic
Right.
goals.
Now,
Okay.
Michelle, let me follow this up because
Yeah.
I know a lot of people have told us, no means no, and once you approach a girl and she says, yeah, you want to go on a date, and she says no, and she's playing a little hard to get. The guys are like backing off on this. So what would you tell? How do we deal with that?
Mace, is that how you would define playing hard to get? Just a hard no?
No, that's.
No.
I don't think that's playing hard to get. I think that's a no. That's a no.
Oh, but what's the
No
guy?
means no.
What's the guy hearing when you're playing hard to get?
Oh, that's a good question.
He
you
should
know?
be hearing, try a little harder.
I don't
Right?
know what he's thinking and you play hard to get. I feel like I have a hard time doing that because if I like someone, then I'm not gonna play hard to get because I'm like,
Right.
I like you. I don't even play hard to get. I'm like, I definitely like you. And that's where I have another question for you, Michelle. That is it like if you do like someone, it's so hard to play hard to get because you obviously like them, and do you still need to employ that tactic, or do you just kind of show them that you're very
Your
interested?
cards.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, here's something that, first off, you got to read the room, right? You got to read the situation, meaning you got to read that person's body language in terms of like, how do they respond to you when they're in close proximity? If you like someone and hard to get isn't part of the strategy that you're comfortable with, in one way, shape, or form, whether you realize it or not, you will kind of play hard to get. You will flirt, right? You
There
may
you
be
go.
a little
Yeah.
bit coy, all of that are different techniques to be able to play hard to get. If a person doesn't show interest or reciprocate interest, you got to remember something. There are 5 different types of flirting styles, okay? So one of the things to know early on is what kind of flirting style can you identify from that person? We've been taught through movies and just through things that we consume that flirting is always a matter of like being really playful, or like the guy always has to do the chasing, and that's not always the case. There's other different flirting styles. Some people are more polite, right? They want to create a more of an emotional connection. Some people are really more sincere, where they're just a combination of polite, but they're also maybe a little bit hard to read. And some people are just really playful. Is that person being playful because they're just looking for a casual thing, or are they being playful because they're reciprocating to your interest?
Oh, I did not realize that those were other flirting styles because I immediately went to, it's the playful.
Yeah, playful, right?
Yeah.
So is that the one that you respond to?
Yeah, that's the one where I'm like, oh, they're
Ooh.
flirting.
Oh.
Okay. Sophia,
But what about polite? What if it's kind of polite? Is that
What if someone treats you with great respect, is a door for you, and is kind to you, and is that flirting to you, or is that just someone being nice?
I think there's a lot of value in reading the room, like she's saying. I mean, it's so easy to say, like, well, it depends, but it, like, really does, because I can think of some people that, like, you just look at how they treat other people, and if they're treating me extra nice and opening the door for just me as opposed to, like, me and my roommate and all of his friends, then, like, yeah, that's, like, not necessarily that. I probably wouldn't read into that, but if it was, I noticed that he was going out of his way to open my door, then I would probably take a note of that.
Mm-hmm.
And I also, like, what you made me think of was just playing hard to get. I would love to hear your definition of it too. Like, how would you describe an ideal hard to get? Like, if you were to recommend
the ideal hard to get?
like, how would you do that? Because I'm thinking of the people that in my life that I would consider hard to get, and I'm realizing now that it's less hard to get and more that they're just, like, busy people that have really interesting, busy lives, and it's less that they're, like, hard to get and more that I just think it's appealing that they aren't boring and, like, they're not just, like, sitting around and, like, being flaky. They're just genuinely busy. So, like, how would you define, like, playing hard to get in a tactful way? Something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously there's banter and there's humor, right? Like that's the most obvious to begin with. But I would also say reading body language, like when that person's interacting with you, how are their feet facing? Are their feet facing you? Are their feet facing away from you? Are they leaning into you? Are their eyebrows raised when you're talking? Are they hanging on your every word? Because that is so important. That allows you to kind of figure out like, okay, this person has interest in me, and so I'm going to play a little bit hard to get. Maybe I'll use a little bit of humor. Maybe I'll say, I'll give you a quick story. I've had a client who at work approached a girl when she was getting a cup of coffee, and he was so nervous, right? But they had already they work, so they have a little bit of rapport. So he starts asking her how her weekend was, and she shares all this stuff with him. And then he takes the opportunity to say to her, well, you know what? Maybe that'd be something that you and I could do and hang out, because it sounds like a lot of fun. And she was kind of like, I'm not really sure if he's interested in me, but her response was like, well, I guess if you call me sometime, then maybe, right? There you go. She was playing a little bit hard to get, but she's letting him know that there's interest.
Oh, okay,
that.
okay, I can see that. Yeah.
That's useful.
That's a good example, actually. I'm trying to, that's great.
Because I think some people feel hard to get and think, oh, I'm just not going to respond to them for a couple of hours before they text me, and I feel like that's just not the same thing. So I'm glad you clarified that.
Yeah, because here's the thing, absolutely, because you definitely gotta be mindful of when to respond. Because if you wait too long, you're either going to get friend zoned, or that person's going to immediately think they're not interested, moving on. And once the person moves on, they feel that they just have endless options.
Okay. So you're really not playing hard to get. You're just prompting them to go to the next step. So you're prompting them to say, well, yeah, maybe if you call me sometime, because then if they call you, then it's an official, now they've shown that they're really interested in you. So you're just kind of, you're pushing them to make that step that shows that this is more than just casual conversation.
And not making yourself as available all the time either.
Yeah.
There's a delicate balance, right?
Sure.
Like if the guy calls her and she's really busy, then she'll call back, right? But if you're not busy, don't be waiting by the phone, waiting for him to call. Like, move on with your life. Continue.
You still wait by the phone. Your phone's with you everywhere you go. See, when I was growing up, little girls literally waited by the phone, because the phone was in your kitchen, and they'd wait for the phone. But now you're always waiting by the phone, aren't you?
Yeah, your phone's in your back pocket. You're always waiting, I guess.
You're waiting for something.
You're always checking it.
So true.
So, Michelle, I was reading on your Instagram page. I found something that I thought was really interesting. I wanted to have you talk to our audience about this. And it was 3 things to stop doing early in the dating phase. And so these were the 3 things, and I want you to comment on these. So the first one was stop assuming. And you said try open communication. What can you tell us about that one?
We're humans, and by nature, we want to judge. We just naturally judge. It takes 6 milliseconds to really begin to form an impression about someone when we see someone. And we form that impression, and then a narrative begins to start, right? So don't assume that what you think or perceive is always correct. If you're checking someone's Instagram and you've done a little bit of research before a first date and you have somewhat of a picture, ask questions. Ask the right questions to get the right type of answers before going off of an assumption. Because if you make assumptions, it makes you less tolerable, which means it closes you up to giving someone the opportunity to really show you who they are.
Yeah, I love that. I love and that's the idea of communication. Talk to them. Be open, right, Michelle? Be open to what they have to say. I love that. Don't prejudge them. It's very good.
I think we judge a lot in our culture. I think because everything's readily available to us, right? And so we're just used to, okay, this is what it is. But we need to be mindful that the same way that we judge, other people are judging us as well.
Yeah, that is so valid.
And it seems that when you're very judgmental of other people, you think that other people are judgmental of you. And so it makes you insecure because you think, well, I'm judging everybody. And so you automatically think, well, everybody's. So you think everything you do is being judged. And it causes you to have insecurity.
So there's really that lack of communication, guys. All right, Michelle, number 2 was, and I love this one because I hear it all the time, is stop talking about your ex.
Yes, please stop talking about your ex.
Why does this happen? Why do people feel like they need to do this?
I think what happens is that people begin to ask about, tell me about your last relationship, or when was your last relationship, or something around where a person wants to understand this person's relationship history, or at least get a glimpse of it. And what ends up happening is that we get so nervous because we don't think about this question prior to going on a date. So we don't have a formulated answer. And so what we do is that then we just begin to talk about our ex and say all kinds of things. And then what happens is it comes across as, instead of being nervous, that you're still stuck on your ex.
You're not over this. You're not over this person.
Yep.
Is there ever a point where you should talk about your ex?
Listen, I say answer the question. Like, hey, when was your last relationship? How was it? What happened? Hey, I was involved with someone. We were involved for a couple of years. We went different paths. We grew apart, or it was a toxic relationship. And I'm back out here trying to find the love of my life. I think you always should give someone some context about your past relationship, because then when you ask them, what, this is what I learned from my past relationship, this is what I'm looking for, it doesn't come without any context or any background. And it also shows that you've taken time to reflect about the relationship. You can talk about the ex 1 to 3 minutes, and I say 3 minutes is a lot.
That's a lot.
It is, but it's something that should continue be part of the conversation as the relationship grows.
And I've seen examples where you're talking to someone and they constantly bring up their ex. Like, my ex used to order that when we went to that restaurant. Or
why would you say
my
that?
ex and I used to come to this restaurant all the time. And it just happens to people. And is that just that they're not over the person yet? Or they're not into the date or into the moment?
Just immature?
I think sometimes people don't think before they speak, and it could be a telltale sign that person may still be processing some feelings or emotions, right? That things that remind them about them. And I say the moment that you want to bring up your ex, talk about yourself. Like, hey, I tried this new restaurant. Hey, I'm doing these new things. Talk about yourself, because at the end of the day, the person's trying to get to know you, not learn about your ex.
That's really good advice.
I have a different theory on that. That being in a relationship shows that you're valued. And so when you have a relationship, you are of value. When you lose that, you sometimes feel like you've lost value because no one is wanting you. And so by referring that, you're showing the other person, I have value. Someone valued me before, and I've got value. So I think there's a deeper emotional reason that people do that, is because they're trying to show the other person that I'm a valuable person. Someone was connected. And so it's hard to let go of that value that you get by having a relationship with somebody. And that's why it's so hurtful when you break that relationship, because you feel now you're of less value than you were before.
Bob, I would agree with you. I think that's a very valid.
It's a very
valid point. Yeah. And I think that talking to my friends, thinking about myself, I'm like, yeah, no, I think that everyone would probably agree with that to some extent.
I love your advice to go along with that, though. I feel like that applies even more, that you should just, every time you want to talk about your ex, just talk about yourself, because you are value. You're a value to yourself.
There you go.
We've had so many guests come on and talk about how important it is to realize that you don't need to date somebody to be happy, that you can, but you should always work on yourself first. And I feel like that just adds to that.
So I think if you find yourself doing that, talking about your ex, I think that's a red flag to you, that you need to say, wait a minute, I'm of value. I didn't need that other person to be of value. I'm of value on my own.
Okay, you are, Bob.
I'm beginning to think I'm beginning to think you guys have all listened to her Instagram.
Well,
because her number 3, get this, her number 3 is stop neglecting self-care.
That's called that's a transition. That's what that is.
And try prioritizing self-care. That's right, Michelle?
Absolutely. We cannot give if our gas tank is empty. You're on fumes. You have to take care of yourself, because learning how to love yourself and take care of yourself allows you to teach other people how you want to be loved, how you want to be taken care of. And that's so important, because then at the end of the day, to go back to what Bob mentioned just a moment ago about value, your value now does not depend on being as a part of a couple. Your value and your worth, you know what it is. You know your own identity. And what you're looking for is to bring someone into your life, or walk into someone's life, that is a compliment, that you both complement one another.
What would you tell our listeners to help them recognize their value?
That's a great question. First off, I would say your value has nothing to do with how much money you have in the bank. It has nothing to do with your success or your accomplishments or anything else, nothing external. Your value has everything to do with you internally. Are you a good person? Are you a person who does things for others, who helps other people? Are you a person who is reliable? Are you someone who's honest? We all have flaws. We're not perfect, but it's really identifying the things that make you a good person. that is reflected through your friendships and through other relationships that are not romantic, of people that call you, people that, you know, say you're so good at this, you're so great at this. Be open to receiving and letting that be pour into you and continue to increase your value. The fact that you're here and you made it and you competed against a million sperm when at the time of conception means that you are valuable. You have a purpose. There is a reason why you are on this
I
earth.
never quite thought of it.
I
in that
am
way.
going to quote that. That is amazing.
That's awesome.
That's wonderful.
It's a great visual image.
And guys, she's been on 4 seasons of a TV show, and she's a 13-time award winner for being a TV
Yes.
host. So I'm
Well,
curious,
I see why now.
what have you learned through being a host through all these dating shows? Like, what is the biggest takeaway that people like maybe don't realize?
Yeah, I mean, you've done celebrities as well. So what is the biggest takeaway? Because I think we all suffer from the same problems.
And I think you hit it on the head, is that we all go through this journey that sometimes can be a little bit painful or difficult in our journey to find love. And that you're not alone. And that just because someone who may be close to you, or you see your friends, or you have friends that are married and your time hasn't come yet, doesn't mean that there isn't someone out there for you. Sometimes it's just a matter of polishing your dating skills and really fishing in a different pond. We keep fishing in the same pond, you keep getting the same results. You go to a different pond, you get different results.
What kind of ponds are we referring to? Like moving, or are we talking like...
Listen, I'm talking about across state lines. I'm talking about international. I'm talking about trying new hobbies and new things. I'm talking about showing up to that salsa class by yourself, even if you're not, you got 2 left feet.
Oh, ooh. I'm going salsa dancing tomorrow, that's why.
Yeah.
I've tried that.
Are you going by yourself?
No, I have a date.
there you go.
Well, you do spend some time talking about going across cultural boundaries. What are the advantages of that?
You know, the advantages of it is that it just expands your knowledge and expands your worldview. You can really learn a lot about a different culture, about how they do things differently, and possibly adopt or create your own rituals with the person that you're dating and you're starting to see. I feel that although cultures and different rituals and practices and languages may be different, at the end of the day, the human experience, love, suffering, grief, joy, sadness, happiness, that binds us all. And at the end of the day, we are all seeking to be happy, to feel fulfilled. Food is the best way. Like, you know, one of the things that brings cultures together is food. I lived in Cambodia for almost 2 years, and I spoke very conversational Cambodian, but we connected through food.
Yeah.
It was amazing.
Well, now you know this is the It's Just Dinner podcast.
There
right?
you go. You're hitting us right.
So
here.
what we do, Michelle, is we encourage young people to ask someone to go to dinner.
Yeah.
And it's for the exact reason that you just said, is it's the one thing that we all share in common is food and eating. But there's so much interest in food that we can go across cultures and talk about it. That's just so amazing that you said that.
Yeah, she is a 13-time award host.
She is.
Well,
That
she
was-
is. There you
You
go.
know, she know her stuff.
There you go.
All right. In your opinion, what makes a great match? How do we get these people to really match up? What makes a good match between people?
So everything that we do in our company is science-based. And so we match on what we call key life values, right? And they're really broken up into 7. It could be 6, 7 areas. And what makes a really good match is if you're compatible, share similar or the same values in 3 to 4 of those categories. So these categories are spirituality, finance, emotional connection, physicality, family, career, right? All these items, you don't have to be compatible in all these areas, but you want to be compatible in 3 to 4 of those areas, especially what are the views that you have? What are the stories? How did you grow up around those things? And that's what makes a really great match, is when you both are able to understand your perspectives and where you align and where you don't align, and respect each other's differences.
So one of the things that we tell the young people, Michelle, is that when you go out to dinner and you're talking, look for a spark. And those sparks really are within the things you just said. You know, it's physical, financial, emotional, spiritual. And if you have one of those, if you've connected on one of those, then go on a date. Go out on a date with that person. And then see if a second one or a third one connect.
I think after a first date, besides that, which is great advice, by the way, I think you should ask yourself just a couple of questions. How did I feel? How did this person make me feel in this date? Did I feel safe? Did I feel heard? Did I laugh? Did we have some things in common?
There you go. Yeah.
Because when you ask yourself those questions, it's kind of like an evaluation of whether or not to go on a second date, and the answers are positive answers. I say go out on a second date. In attraction, chemistry can build. It doesn't always happen like we see in the movies. All of a sudden you see that person, you just begin to feel butterflies. It's unrealistic.
You know, it is Hallmark Christmas movie season now, Michelle.
I know.
I actually have a question about because I think a lot of times people think that love is like the movies, right? They're like, oh, we're gonna see each other and the sparks are gonna fly, and every time I see them, it's like
the handsome handyman that lives in Vermont.
Yeah. It's one of those just like classic Hallmark movies. They fall in love, and I don't know if that's, I would say, how it works, but I also don't have a ton of experience, so I'm curious if you've seen that play a role in like ruining people's relationships because they don't expect it to be like it is, or I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there.
I think what happens is that I love Christmas romance movies. I'm a rom-com. I'm a hopeless romantic. That's
we
why
love a good rom-com.
You and me too.
But what I have learned over the years is that I think there's too much emphasis put on the fact of that initial spark or that initial butterfly feeling, right? Or that cocktail of oxytocin going in your head and all this other stuff. And that's the part that sets people up for failure, because then we measure, like, did I feel that? And then, oh no, I didn't, so I don't have a connection with this person.
Yes.
That's not always the case.
Okay, Michelle, what about the red flags that are out there? What are you seeing are some of the big ones that are out there that the young women or even the young men should be looking out for?
Red flags, there's just a ton of red flags that I could talk about, but I'm going to talk about just three for ladies and 3 for gentlemen. And let me start with the fellas. Fellas, if a woman is on her phone the entire date and all she's focused on is her Instagram, there's no way that you made a connection with her and you're just super attracted to her and you're kind of chasing her and she's clearly really not ready for a relationship or not interested. And she probably went out because she just wanted to go out and wanted some
dinner.
Company. Yeah, I hate to say that, but here's the thing. This does not equal connection just because you're connected on Instagram. Connection is talking to one another. That's a red flag, fellas. The second red flag, fellas, if you share something vulnerable with her, some mental health is something that we all struggle with, and you share with her that, hey, I've been to therapy because I had a loss in my family or I had to deal with some things, and she completely is not able to have a conversation with you about it or is not able to empathize, that's a red flag. And it's not because there's anything wrong with her. It's simply that maybe she doesn't have the capacity to be able to hear that. She might have her own personal experience. We can't jump to conclusions, but it's a red flag when someone kind of just skirts it over or makes fun of it, or if they're not empathetic to it, it is a red flag. Because you're being vulnerable. They can't have a vulnerability.
No, that's a great one.
And the third one, fellas, if she's consistently late.
Oh.
She doesn't respect your time. And I said consistently, like, we all have oopsies that happen, right?
So true.
We all have them. But if she's consistently late, she doesn't respect your time. So if she doesn't respect your time, how do you expect her to respect you as a man?
Ooh, that is a good one. That one was like pointing it at me, Michelle. I'm always late.
That's so true. Wow, that's a good one. I want to.
Okay. And for the girls?
Okay. Ladies, it's a red flag if a gentleman is hot and cold with you. He texts you and he sets up plans and then he cancels at the last minute, or if he doesn't cancel at the last minute, you're the one that has to kind of keep chasing him to be like, hey, are we still doing this? And he's not being consistent. That is a huge red flag.
Red flag, yeah.
That's good.
Doesn't know what he wants. Second, ladies, if he only wants to talk to you over text, and he can
Oh.
only talk to you at a certain times, and he's always busy and there's always an excuse, I would dig in a little bit deeper to find out what's going on and learn a little bit about his lifestyle, because he might be involved with someone else or might be doing some other things, and you just don't want to be involved in that because it just causes drama. Nobody needs any drama.
So true. Amen.
And last but not least, ladies, listen, I'm a big person on presentation. If a guy can't take the time to look good, look decent, smell good, put on a clean shirt, get a fresh haircut, and just take care of himself, girls, I don't know what you're going to find underneath the hood. And
That's awesome. Michelle, these are really good. I feel like, we'll ask people about, like, what are some red flags? And you kind of hear a lot of the similar ones, but I don't think I heard a single one of these.
Well, and so well stated.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And
You know,
universal.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're
I'm
like,
glad I'm
oh, yeah.
recording this. This is awesome.
Yes, yes,
Yeah.
great.
Wow, this is amazing.
Well, and it's
Thank
that
you.
it is that idea, Michelle, and you've talked about this, is that you can look at a person and you can know about them just based on things like their behaviors and their actions, their body language, how they speak to you. You can learn so much from that. Is that right?
Absolutely, absolutely. People, a lot of the communication, if we really pay attention, I believe it's 80%. I can't remember the correct stat right now, but it's like 80 or 90% is really nonverbal. And then the rest of it is what we say, but we got to pay attention to actions, because actions will really tell you if they're consistent, if their actions match what they're saying. And if there's an inconsistency there, pay attention even more, because you might be wasting your time.
What kind of things would you say you should be looking for? Let's say we go out to dinner, we're sitting there talking and having dinner. What kind of things should you be looking for in terms of body language?
Oh, well, first off, nothing against the guys, but guys, it takes us 4 flirting cues. We have to play with our hair. We have to be obvious 4 times before you guys will actually pick up that we're interested in you.
Oh, wow.
We are so dense, Michelle.
That's awesome.
That is amazing.
Wait, I'm like,
I'd like to say it's because we're deep thinkers, but that's definitely not. That's definitely not what's going on.
That's amazing.
Wow, it takes us 4 times. That's so true.
Can I ask, what is the reciprocative number to that that statistic? How many cues does it take women usually? Do we have a stat for that?
You know what? We're a little bit more perceptive. So typically we know off the bat. Typically we know off the bat. I can't give you the exact stat. Yeah, typically we know. The challenge is that we convince ourselves, and this is where the playing hard to get happens naturally. We convince ourselves, oh, maybe no, I'm looking into it, right? No, he's not interested in me. And then we kind of start, all right, let's play this back and forth, and then the mating game begins.
Okay. We didn't have like a body language reading episode or something like.
do.
No, so
And the game begins.
that is awesome.
So let me ask you this. You're out to dinner, you've started dating, you're talking, things are going well. How long does it really take to know that you're in a good match, that you've found someone you want to spend some serious time with?
I think if you ask yourself the questions that I spoke about earlier, and the answer to those questions are yes, and you think about the conversation and you find that you're aligned in maybe goals, you're aligned in how you both grew up, you're aligned in some hobbies and different things, it's the beginning of a new something blossoming. So definitely give it some water, go on that second date. And I love activity dates. When we set up our clients, and one of the things I recommend to all the clients I work with is activity dates are really great, because number one, it takes the pressure off of both people, where you have to constantly be talking to one another. You get to see if you work well as a team together. And you also get to use the environment as an opportunity to open the gateways to other conversations. So I really do think that when you're trying to figure out whether or not you're a good match, the first date, give someone grace, but ask yourself those questions. Did I feel heard? Did I feel seen? Did I have fun? Did I laugh? Okay, do I find that person attractive? At some point you did if you said yes to the date. So why not give them a second date if you're still unsure?
Yeah, I like that. You're like, you get to see if you're like a team. So you would recommend like team building dates.
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
that's great.
well, what did team building date look like?
That's where you fall back.
What are some of your favorite activity dates, Michelle?
I like escape rooms. That's been a hit with
Oh,
clients.
that's genius.
Yeah.
Escape rooms are great. I've actually had some clients do some rollerblading, or if you will, skating at a rink. That's actually a lot of fun too.
Macy likes that one.
I don't know actually if I like that one.
And I think if you ever done any type of like painting or pottery classes or things like that, that can be really essential.
So, like, if you're in the military, you could do like hand-to-hand combat, you could
Okay.
jump out of airplanes.
Yeah.
Wow, that
Sophie,
is some
you
real
could-
team building.
Sophie is an
Oh.
ROTC.
You
so-
could go to the shooting range. I mean, there's just an unlimited possibilities of things that you can do.
Yeah, it's a little niche.
Drive
yeah.
tanks together.
Yeah.
You know, I'll
Yeah.
steer when you shoot the gun.
Well-
I mean,
Well,
Hey, you
Sophie,
get creative.
I'm curious, Sophie, what would you think is a good activity date? What would you try?
Well, I will say for any women out there that are really, I don't want to say desperate, but really are having a hard time finding men to ask them out, joining the military is a fix.
Just you cannot just say that.
There's just not that many of us. And so
You get a lot of attention.
you do.
Oh, that's awesome.
I will say that you just have to do things that you're interested in. And I am interested in doing a lot of things, outdoor things, more active things. And so it is nice because a lot of the guys that I spend a lot of time with those same things. And so it's easy for them to automatically know that I like those things and I'd be willing to go on a hike and I'd be willing to go fly a plane and go do others. And I like doing those things. And so I've done those things on dates before. And it's fun, but it is easier because I'm part of this group that.
okay,
Gotcha.
so let's think of a second date here. I'm asking these two ladies. If you went on a first date and you kind of clicked and the person said, I really like to run. Would you like to go on a run with me sometimes? You know, in a running situation where you're sweaty and you don't have makeup on, and would that be too scary for a second date?
A second date.
I hate running.
Where you're sweating.
Oh.
So
You're in the military you better join the Navy then.
well, no, they run more, but
Oh.
I think the vulnerability aspect is really cool. I don't know if I'd say yes to a run on a second date, but I think just because I hate running. But if it was like tennis, I love tennis. Like that's still vulnerable because they see me work out.
Right.
I have more confidence in the activity, but it is vulnerable because they'll see me without makeup and they'll see me with all those things, and I'm a makeup wearer, so that's like kind of a big deal for me. So maybe like swimming. I know guys always talk about like you should take her to swim so you can see her without makeup, and that's like kind of annoying to hear. But I think for girls it is confidence building when they see you at like a low, so you don't have those like self doubts. Like, well, he just won't
What
like me
about
when
this
he sees me
idea of
without makeup.
vulnerability, Michelle? Do you think that it's good to show your vulnerabilities?
I think vulnerability is beautiful, and we do not show vulnerability enough. What happens is that when people don't have healthy boundaries in place, then vulnerability can be something where you overshare or someone can take advantage of. But vulnerability is beautiful. You can be vulnerable and still maintain very healthy boundaries. Kind of like she was discussing about like, look, I like the idea of them seeing me sweaty and seeing me that I work out because this is a part of who I am, right? And that's a vulnerable moment. And how they react to that is going to build either a safe environment for that relationship or it's not.
And you talk about authenticity a lot, and I think this goes along with what you're saying, is to be the authentic you.
Absolutely. There is only one you, nobody else like you. So embrace yourself so others know how to embrace you too, but you got to start with you first.
Wow.
That's good.
There are so many one-liners
Yes,
in
there
here.
are.
I know.
Michelle,
We need a
need a little
repeat on
chorus.
that one.
we're
Yeah.
going to write a blog on every one of these,
Yes.
Michelle. So
Feel free, just tag me.
Yeah.
I need to like
we are. I'm going to do that on social media. I'll tag you on every one of these. It's great.
Let us know when you write a book.
Wow. Michelle, I can't believe this. This was amazing.
Yeah, seriously,
Thank
that was
you.
that
Thank
was
you so
wonderful.
Gosh, I
been
did
delightful
this
to
was
chat
so
with
much
you.
fun. You are
Yeah.
just so cool.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so much.
you.
This
And
is
so fun to
great.
talk to.
If this was a
Yeah.
first date, Michelle, we'd ask you on a second date.
This-
You've been that delightful. We felt that kind of spark with you here.
Wow, this is so great. This is so fun. All right, Michelle. I mean, after this episode, everyone's going to want to get a hold of you. How can they connect with you? How can they get a hold of you and talk to you?
Absolutely. You can follow me on all social media at Love by Michelle G. And please feel free to visit us at incredibleloveconnections.com. It's our website. You can learn more about us and the team. You can get a hold of me that way. But Instagram, DMs, slide into my DM, boys and girls.
And I've got to tell you guys, her Instagram is so much fun. She just lays it out for you, gives you so much great advice. You guys have to go and see it. All right, Macy.
Yeah, you
that?
have to. It's really good.
We'll do it.
Is really good.
We're
And you
on.
get to see more about her life as a TV host.
she's awesome.
And her awards. So it's really cool.
So, Michelle, thank you so much. This was so much fun. Thank you again. And Bob, thank you.
Thank you. It's great to be here. What a great show.
Sophie,
this
thanks
was.
for coming back.
Of course.
We've missed
Yes.
you.
Be back.
Yes.
And Macy, of course, you're amazing.
No, Tom, you're
Thank
amazing.
you. Thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you for listening, you guys. We really appreciate it. Make sure you follow us. Make sure you give us some comments, give us some reviews. And you can follow us on our Instagram at Dating Made Simple. And then also go to the It's Just Dinner podcast on TikTok. And we're going to put some stuff up there. If you have questions, you can send them on our email, the It's Just Dinner podcast. And send us your bad date stories, too, or your funny date stories. So we're collecting those up. We're going to have an episode really quick.
Yeah, it's our favorite thing to do.
Well, great, you guys. Thank you again. And listen, all you guys out there, just go have fun out there, would you?